Hola amigos, bien o no, y saludos desde Inglaterra. Hoy yo quiero compartir un pensamiento, algo con este libro. Es un libro un poco especial. Es un proyecto que va a imprimir en el año 1982, casi 40 años antes. Y la idea de este fue que es una lista de 500 libros que pueda leer durante toda su vida, 50 años más o menos. Es un proyecto muy interesante. Y claro, hay muchos libros clásicos con algunos temas muy distintos, muy diferentes, muy diversos. Pero hoy yo quiero compartir con ustedes el primer parte, casi el última, el última parte, la última página de esta, que es un argumento por qué es una buena idea para leer con muchos diferentes tipos de libros, de literatura, historia, cultura, filosofía, algo. So, ese es el tema de hoy, porque también para nosotros, para leer es casi lo mismo, más importante que para hablar, porque los dos son juntos, son el, el fuente principal que nosotros pueda entender y también tomar una experiencia con el nueva lengua. Y si nosotros podemos leer con muchas distintas formas en la nueva lengua también, podemos avanzar más rápido a este punto de vista de fluidez. So, this is the idea de hoy. So today I'm going to share with you a reading from this book, A Lifetime's Reading by Philip Ward. This was published back in 1982. I came across this book back in the early 90s. It's an interesting book. The idea behind it is this gentleman came up after a lifetime working in all sorts of libraries, literally 500 different books that he thought were classics of literature of their type, that if you split them out over 50 years, really basically one a month, you'd cover all 500. As with all these kind of lists and things, that's very subjective, but it's a very interesting collection. It gives you some interesting pointers, lots of things perhaps you would never have heard of. So if you can find the book, I highly recommend it. It's a very interesting list. Doubtless you'll disagree with most of it, but it's an interesting idea. So I'm going to share with you the epilogue, the final part of the book, the final page, where he, in many ways, defends the general idea of why it's a good idea, if we can, to read as widely as possible. Why this helps us in all kinds of ways. Might challenge our perspective on things, might help us put current events into a more balanced view. If nothing else, it helps us show that even if we might think the world today has indeed gone mad, this would have been an opinion from people in the past as well. And it's interesting to see how they dealt with the madness of their own times, which we have now survived. So, some interesting ideas. Obviously, from our point of view, if we're students of a new language, to attempt this type of project in the literature of the new language we're studying is a very good idea, if indeed a bit daunting and very challenging. But if you can read as much, as widely as possible, this is the next best thing to conversations with lots of people. In fact, in some ways, it might be a more useful thing, at least in terms of seeing more vocabulary and the ways that you can use the language. So it's something to consider, because if you're able to read a wide range of books in the new language, this is going to help you hit that fluency goal a little quicker, because the exposure to the language in all its forms and all its uses will increase massively, and that for us as adults learning the new language is probably the quickest way we can get to that point. But anyway, let me read you what Dr. Ward says about reading generally. So this is at the end of his book, where he's talking about some conclusions about all these 50 years worth of books that he's recommended. Epilogue. It will have become obvious by now that a lifetime's reading is no more than a means to an end, which will be expressed in various ways by different readers. It might be described as self-awareness coupled with altruism, the way or Tao, the right mindfulness or Sanipathana, which is deliverance from greed, hatred and delusion, or perhaps wisdom humanized by compassion. The learning of facts is a necessary discipline of youth. So is the learning of languages. So is the mastery of technical skills. But we have by now learnt more than all this if we have been reading closely, with attention undeterred from inner meanings, metaphor, allegory and symbolism. There is the mastery of imagination, as one accompanies Dante and Virgil into the Inferno. The ecstasy of self-forgetting demonstrated by the yogi Patanjali and the mystic John of the Cross. The enlightenment of the spirit in Japanese Zen, and the scientific investigator in histories of science and invention. We can accept the divergent ways of communism and Catholicism, of atheism and Islam, because mankind is essentially plural, not only in language and nationhood, but also in religion and politics. We can learn from tradition and the accumulated experience of society, as well as from new technologies and new ways of looking at ideas or systems. We can devote our lives to what is positive, such as nursing, agriculture, or librarianship, and reject what is negative. It will have become apparent that no ideology or dogma is propounded as self-evidently true at any point in a lifetime's reading. Quite a novelty. Everyone is wrong for a part of the time, just as everyone is right for a part of the time. Wide reading shows that most ways of life should be viewed with tolerance, in context, and that we can learn from the collective experience of those who have lived before, if we read critically, skeptically, and sympathetically. There we go. So, something to think about. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Déjeme saber, como siempre, en los comentarios. But for now, we'll say cheerio.